Hey, good morning. I am continuing a little tradition I started about 4 weeks ago of just reflecting on the passage that we taught about on the weekend at the Duluth Vineyard Church and just offering kind of some deeper reflections on that passage and on the things that we were studying so that we can take it a little bit deeper into our lives. So this past weekend, John and I, both of us are pastors at the Vineyard in Duluth, looked at the temptation of Jesus, and we looked at how we are being invited into something we did not choose. This time of physical isolation from one another to stop the continued spread of a global pandemic, and how God might be using that in our lives. And here's something that a friend of mine wrote that I really like. He said, the most important thing in our lives is not so much what we can do as leaving room for what God can do. The most important thing in our lives is not so much what we can accomplish. It's leaving room for what God can accomplish. The great secret of all spiritual fruitfulness and growth is learning to let God act. Jesus said, apart from me, you can do nothing. He said that about himself, that on his own he can't do anything. He only does what he sees the Father doing. And so God's love is way more powerful than anything that we could do on our own, in our own wisdom and in our own strength. And at the same time, one of the most essential qualities or conditions for allowing God's grace to act in our lives is saying yes to kind of where we are, the situations we find ourselves in, and then paying attention for what God might want to do in each of those situations. And so during times of maybe a little bit more silence and solitude than we're used to, during times of isolation from one another, or being in the same house for a really long time with each other, not being able to get away, how is it that we might live in dependence and surrender to God and embrace what He's doing in our lives so that we can actually turn this into a time of deep growth and deep transformation for each of us. God's love is infinitely more powerful than anything that we can do by our own wisdom and strength. And so God, would you give us a longing, a desire to lean in to that love, and not setting our own wisdom and strength aside, but in partnership with you, allowing your love, your grace, your presence to empower that strength and wisdom that you've given to us. And would you give us a continued desire to say yes to what you're up to each and every moment of the day, wherever we find ourselves, whether we're on the front lines of working with people who are sick, or whether we're helping our whole neighborhood by staying home and by staying isolated during this time. Would you give us the courage to choose a life that's completely dependent upon your Spirit to lead us in every situation? You see, because by accepting our own limitations, by welcoming our own limitations, our own weakness, we're actually setting God's love and grace free in our lives. We set His grace free in our lives by being willing to accept our own limitations in this moment. I'll be back tomorrow. God bless you.